Quick heads up, I do full chart readings at astrologyrideoftheday.com if you want to go deeper. All right, let's get to it. The Archer in the Ocean, Mars and Sagittarius, the Warrior's Poet Quest. When Mars strides into Sagittarius, the fire shifts from survival to expansion, from the heat of urgency to the blaze of meaning. This is the warrior poet archetype, seeking, roaming, aiming its arrow towards the horizons not yet touched by experience. Mars in Sagittarius doesn't just act, it quests. It moves with a wide-angle lens fueled by curiosity, faith, and a relentless desire to grow. This Mars acts from a bone-deep belief that life should feel expansive, that stagnation is a kind of death, that the universe rewards the brave who leap. Under this transit, the body wants movement, the mind wants new territory, and the spirit wants a bigger sky. You may feel pulled toward travel, physical, intellectual, philosophical. There's a boldness that says yes, sometimes before the plan is even clear. Can you see me? Mars in Sagittarius moves with the Archer's paradox. It must release in order to hit the target. There's a necessary trust in letting go in the trajectory once the arrow leaves the bow. Sometimes you must act toward the truth even before you fully understand it. The gift is enthusiasm. It's pure. It's unfiltered. It's also contagious. The challenge is overextension, mistaking excitement for direction, scattering arrows instead of choosing a target. But even that has wisdom. Mars in Sagittarius teaches through motion, expanding identity by pushing you past what you already know. When action is rooted in inspiration, you don't only move forward, you transform the terrain of your entire becoming. Saturn moves through Pisces every 29 years, staying for about 2.5 years, bringing gravity to the intangible. Pisces dissolves boundaries while Saturn is structure and builds them. This transit is where the mystic meets the builder, a time to give form to the formless, to ground the vision in the ritual, and to learn that not all dreams survive contact with reality, but those that do can truly endure. This is a calling to mature spiritually. Grow the hell up. You're asked to discern between illusion and inspiration, to practice compassion with clarity, and to turn escapism into devotion. Under this transit, faith becomes practice, prayer becomes structure, imagination becomes discipline. Saturn in Pisces asks, what can you build from your sensitivity? What container can hold your vastness without breaking you? The challenge lies in avoiding confusion, overwhelm, or clinging to fantasies that keep you from growing. Pisces wants to merge. Saturn wants to define. The friction can feel like trying to sculpt water, but that's exactly the work. The gift is spiritual resilience, a depth of faith that is lived, not imagined. This is the faith that shows up day after day, even when the veil is thin and the world feels too heavy to hold. It is compassion tempered with wisdom. You learn that surrender is not the same as collapse, and that boundaries are not walls. They are the shapes that allow love to be sustainable. Saturn in Pisces reminds you that even the ocean needs a shore, and that dreams, to live, you must be shaped by hands that are willing to stay. The square 25 degrees, when fire meets water. When Mars in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees, the friction between expansion and dissolution becomes unmistakable. This is a mutable square, restless, slippery, hard to pin down. Both planets are searching, but in opposite directions. Mars chased the horizon, while Saturn asks you to stay and tend to what's already here. Mars wants to go. Saturn wants you to feel the pain. Mars says leap. Saturn says wait. At the 25th degree, a degree associated with intelligence and progeny, this square becomes specifically about what you are creating and what will endure. This is not just philosophical friction. It's a test of legacy, of wisdom, of whether your inspired actions can actually birth something lasting. The archer aims at truth, but Saturn in Pisces asks, will this truth nourish? Will it hold water? Can it become a teaching, a practice, a lineage? The question is not just about personal growth. It's about what you leave behind, what you build, and what you pass on. This degree amplifies the intellectual tension. Your mind works overtime trying to reconcile competing truths. To bring clarity, Mars. To confusion, Saturn and Pisces. How do I know what's real? How do I act when the path keeps shifting? How do I create something meaningful when the ground beneath me won't solidify? Mars has the upper hand. Saturn in Pisces is operating underwater. Pisces dissolves boundaries, diffuses focus, and resists the very structure Saturn seeks to impose. Saturn's nose is porous. The walls are soft. The resistance isn't solid. It's fall, guilt, confusion, emotional undertow. Mars, by contrast, cuts through. Fire overcomes water. The archer's momentum pierces Saturn's mist with clarity of direction, speed, and embodied decisiveness. Mars acts. Saturn in Pisces hesitates, absorbs, dissolves. It's like trying to block a sword with mist. But Mars' victory has a cost. You may override exhaustion, bypass grief, or mistake movement for progress when what's actually needed is rest, reflection, or repair. The urge to escape Saturn's heaviness through action will be strong, but the square won't let you outrun what needs to be faced. What this feels like? Every surge of inspired action runs headlong into doubt, exhaustion, or sobering reality check. You feel the urge to move, and then the fog rolls in. Confusion clouds your aim, responsibilities resurface, the dream reveals itself as harder, slower, and more sacrifice demanding than you even imagined. Saturn becomes the drag, the whisper that says, you're not ready, this won't hold, you're being reckless. It manifests as guilt poisoning your optimism, overwhelm scattering your focus, weariness that makes even inspired action feel like wading through the water. Mutable squares are not meant to be resolved, they're meant to be navigated. The tension teaches adaptability, discernment, and it even teaches integration of seemingly opposite truths. The shadow. Where the square can go wrong, reckless escape. Mars charges forward to avoid Saturn's emotional reality, booking spontaneous trips to escape responsibility, starting the new project to avoid finishing the last one, preaching philosophy to bypass the messy work of healing. Passive martyrdom. Saturn dissolves Mars' fire into guilt, self-sacrifice, or paralysis. Action becomes too hard. You sacrifice your truth to keep the peace, or drown your anger in spiritual bypassing. Dogmatic rigidity versus boundaryless compassion. Mars hardens into self-righteousness. My truth is the truth. while Saturn collapses into enabling confusing mercy with the refusal to say no. Scattered vision. You start 10 inspired projects but lack the discipline to finish any. Get your lazy ass up. Or you build rigid structures that suffocate the spirit they were meant to serve. The gift. When the warrior poet meets the mystic builder. When you work with this square instead of against it, something alchemical happens. Mars cuts through illusion. Saturn teaches Mars patience, timing, and sacred pacing. Together, they forge a better path that is both brave and deeply intentional. Grounded inspiration. Your enthusiasm becomes sustainable because it's rooted in realistic structures and compassionate boundaries. Embodied devotion. Your actions become a form of focused, sacred service. The journey is no longer just for thrill. It's a pilgrimage with rules, purpose, and reverence. You don't just believe, you practice. You don't just dream, you build. Courageous compassion. You can learn to speak truth, filtered through wisdom about what is kind and necessary. You act boldly, but with mercy. You hold boundaries, but with tenderness. Disciplined faith. Your optimism survives the reality test. You develop a faith that isn't blind but live, tested by obstacles, refined by limitations, and still burning. Legacy through wisdom. At 25 degrees, the degree of intelligence and progeny. What endures is not just what you do, but what you create with consciousness. Your actions become teachings. Your struggles become wisdom you could pass on. You build something, a practice, a body of work, a way of being that outlives the moment. Ways to navigate this tension. Channel restlessness into structure. Give Mars a quest. Give Saturn a ritual. Commit to a daily practice. Yoga, language study, philosophical writing. Build shorelines for your ocean. Identify where you need boundaries in your empathy, your time, and your commitments. A shore doesn't stop the ocean. A shore creates a livable edge. Let action pause for integration. Before pushing forward, ask, what have I learned? What needs to be honored before I take my happy ass home? Practice discernment. Is this inspiration or escapism? Faith or fantasy? Courage or avoidance? Embrace the pause. 2 + 5 = 7. The degree of rest, happiness, and equilibrium. It's the destination that this square is teaching you to find. Sometimes the most radical act is to stop, to breathe, to let the arrow land before drawing the next one. This square forces the marriage of the zealot and the monk. It demands that your fire be poured into a sacred container and that your container be permeable enough to allow divine inspiration. You learn that even the arrow must pause mid-flight to recalibrate. That devotion is not the enemy of freedom. That boundaries don't kill dreams, they give them a place to land. That true expansion requires roots. That intelligence without discipline becomes scattered. Discipline without inspiration becomes rigid. What you create at 25 degrees, intelligence, progeny, can only reach 7, rest, equilibrium, through the honest work. Get your lazy ass up. Mars in Sagittarius, square Saturn in Pisces reminds you, even the archer must sometimes lower the bow, breathe, and trust that stillness too is part of the quest. And even the ocean to nourish life needs the discipline of tides, and it also needs the structure of a shore. The friction grinds down illusions, leaving behind spiritualized discipline. Action with the soul, movement with meaning, faith that has survived the fire and emerged as something unshakable. The tension you feel is not a problem to solve, but a forge in which you are being refined. Mars gives you the arrow. Saturn gives you the aim. The square gives you the resistance that makes the shot true. What you create here, through the struggle, through the navigation, through the refusal to choose either reckless freedom or paralyzing fear, becomes your legacy. Not perfect, not easy, but real, lived, built to last. This is how the warrior poet learns to build cathedrals in the mist. This is how the mystic learns to move with purpose. This is how faith becomes action, and action becomes devotion, and devotion becomes the kind of wisdom that can be passed on. Even the ocean needs a shore. Even the arrow must eventually land. And when your inspired action finally meets sustained structure, you discover what 25 was always trying to birth. Something intelligent, something generative, something that endures. That is when you finally reach 7. Rest, not as collapse, but as peace that comes from knowing you built something real. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below. Send me an email at iamastrologyreadings@gmail.com. Come to the website, iamastrologyreadings.com. Hit contact, drop a message there. I also do personal readings. Come to the website, go to the booking, like, share with a friend, family member, or co-worker. If you want to show your appreciation, you could send a tip to your boy. I Am Astrology Readings at PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. I'm Paul Heath, and this is I Am Astrology Readings. Know thyself and balance your energy. If you like these daily horoscopes and want one personalized for you, same style, 3 minutes, about your chart, you can book a first impression reading at iamastrologyreadings.com for $25 and I'll record it, drop it right here on the feed. Tips is also welcome, even $1 helps. Full deep dive readings also available. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all at I Am Astrology Readings. My brother's gotta eat too. I appreciate you in advance.